Hello, welcome to Recovery Demystified, a show where we explore our relationship to substances from a radical, non-religious, and empowering lens. Our sobriety is not a purity contract. It is an invitation to become curious about ourselves and find our own unique paths to growth and healing. If you've been questioning the role of alcohol or drugs in your life and haven't found the resources that you need, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello. Welcome back to Recovery Demystified. My name is Early. I'm so happy to have y'all here today. Today I speak with Benji, who is a stranger from the internet. Y'all know how I love strangers from the internet. They sent me an email after they had heard Obsidian's episode, and they said they wanted to talk about the death of their partner to fentanyl. And this happens way too fucking often, where we lose really special, beautiful, wonderful people to fentanyl overdoses or overdoses in general. And it fucking sucks. And I'm really glad that they came to tell their story today, because a lot of times people just get added to a pile of numbers and their stories aren't told. And I think it's really important to humanize people and humanize the struggle of being in recovery, the nature of impulsivity, and the gravity of what our decisions can result in sometimes. And I'm super grateful to Benji for coming on and telling their story. And I'm really sorry for their loss. And I know a lot of other folks listening to this have lost folks as well. And yeah, it sucks. And we need to tell these people's stories. So if you want to tell a story of a loved one that you've lost to addiction, go ahead and send me an email, info@recoverydemystified.com. And I would be really honored to help share the story of your loved ones with the world. So without further ado, here is my interview with Benji. All right. Hi, Benji. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I'm a little bit sleepy, but that's kind of my usual. I have my dog right here, so I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm at my neighbor's house, so I have their two dogs laying around, and I just love the company of dogs, so I'm glad we both have a doggy with us. Will you start by introducing yourself to the audience, let them know your pronouns, and just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Benji. I use they, them pronouns. I am a grad student researcher in mental health and a tattoo artist and a kind of crazy dog mom. Just trying to get through the day and survive with my myriad of circumstantial things going on.
Yeah, that sounds like enough to live a full life. What kind of dog do you have?
Oh my God. Okay. Well, then now this is the dog podcast, because if you get me started on my dog, it's never going to end. But he is a mix of a German Shepherd, kind of husky lab cutie, but he's tiny. He's like a little runt. So
Cute. What's
he's
his name?
adorable. His name is Kikoman.
Oh,
if
cute.
he barks, I'm really sorry.
That's all good. Well, we're here to talk about your story with addiction and recovery. So I'm curious what it was like for you to be a little kid, maybe some of your first exposures with substances, and then when it got bad, and ultimately how you got into recovery and where you're at today. So yeah, just start wherever you'd like.
Yeah. So, and kind of when I go into this, I just want to kind of put out there and keep in mind. So there's a certain amount of vagueness that I need to employ, just because I'm in the process of doing some immigration stuff right now, which classically is a process where you get kind of scrutinized. So to be a little on the DL. Yeah. And I also think that ultimately I'm going to kind of go in this direction of really speaking a lot about my partner, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that part. But yeah, being a kid and kind of being in a world where substances are used, I think I was pretty drawn by the kind of allure of anything that seemed edgy or not for kids, adult, just because I had a pretty intense childhood. And so I think I kind of was well, I've already kind of skipped the normal childhood part. I might as well go straight into being a chaotic teenager.
What was intense about your childhood, if you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I had just kind of a pretty chaotic childhood. My birth mother passed away when I was quite young. I was 1. And so there was just kind of a lot of chaos as far as where I lived as a kid, and then moving around a lot and having emotionally unstable and immature parents as it happens. Shout out. But there's just a lot there. And also, I come from a Japanese American family. And so there's a lot of kind of factors that I'm still unpacking about like intergenerational trauma and how that kind of all jumbles together with the way that we grow up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Getting shuffled around a lot is really hard for kids, and having a primary caregiver pass away, like especially pre-memory, I'm sure is a deep trauma that probably still lives with you. Do you remember what age you were when you started to have those thoughts of like, well, I had to skip childhood, so I'm already interested in adult stuff? Yeah, do you remember around what age you were when that started happening?
Yeah, I think I was about 8 when I was kind of like, oh, I'm not a child. I'm an adult in a child's body. Because I was like, I had like unfettered access to the internet as a child, which is both a horrible and beautiful thing. But I was just like very exposed to pornography pretty young and just the wild world of the internet. And like, I think I just really got into my head around that time that like, oh, I'm a kid and I'm a kid right now, but like ultimately like I'm an adult, like this is where I'm heading. And so I was very interested in things like drinking. And so if ever my parents were like open to letting me try anything, I would be like, for sure, yes, let's do that.
Was there addiction in your family or people using substances in your household?
Yes and no. Like, not that I really noticed particularly, but it's been interesting because more recently, like in the last, 5 years, my dad has gotten sober. And that was really interesting to me because I didn't really notice that he had an issue with drinking. But now, like, once he said, oh, hey, I'm quitting drinking, I have a problem with this, I was like, oh, that makes sense. So I think there was things happening that I wasn't really fully cognizant of.
Yeah, I hear a lot from people too whose parents have issues with substances that when you're a kid, it just feels normal, even if it's like not from an adult perspective. Do you remember like seeing your dad drink when you were a kid?
Not super, because my dad was really busy working and stuff. I think it was more like as a teenager, like he would get really drunk sometimes, but I couldn't really tell if he was drunk or just really sad. But like my dad, when he's not regulated and not checking himself and his behaviors, he gets really sappy. Like he would always be like, I'm so proud of you. And I'd be like, what is happening? Like, what is going on? And so it didn't really come across as an issue to me. I mean, it was an issue, but like I was like, it didn't fit my idea of what a substance issue looked like. So I think it kind of flew under the radar.
What was your idea of what a substance issue looked like?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure at what point I really started conceptualizing like, oh, this is what having an addiction looks like. Like, I'm not sure when that started to kind of cement in my mind. I did watch a lot of the L Word as a very young child. I don't know who out there watched the L Word, but like that has a lot of really serious themes in it. And I'm sure there are themes of like addiction and recovery in there. So I'm sure it kind of probably came from media of being like, oh, you yell, like you do something that you regret later, like
you like crash a car, you lose your job, that kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so maybe it's hard to conceptualize your dad as having a problem at that time because you just saw like emotional issues, but you didn't see any sort of big life repercussions, maybe.
No, I didn't. I didn't really. But I think also my conception of what having issues with substances looked like was pretty informed by my own issues with substances, because I think I tried very hard to have substance issues when I was a kid. Like, I was very like just experimental, like would take anything that I found in the house, like was so like very romantic about my kind of ideas about engaging in substance use.
What was the first time that you experimented with substances?
I don't remember. Honestly, I don't. I just know kind of what was happening around in that kind of era of time. But there's no like first kind of experience that I can recall.
Do you remember any of the earlier ones? Like, was it alcohol in the house, or what kind of things were you finding around?
Yeah, like alcohol in the house, taking like pseudoephedrine. My next door neighbor was like, did you know that you can get high off of nutmeg? And I was like, no way. And so I ate a whole bottle of nutmeg. I can't stand nutmeg.
Did it work? I heard that too when I was a kid, but yeah.
Oh, it does not work.
It does not work.
Not the kind you get in like a like a dried ground bottle of no. I was a really intense person, and like I really craved intensity and wanted to do intense things that looked intense to other people as well, just because I think I wasn't really getting the kind of attention that I needed.
Did you feel like you got the attention that you needed as a result of using substances, or what do you make of that now as an adult?
Yeah, not really. It was kind of interesting because eventually I had a friend who told my parents what was going on, who was like, Benji's doing all these things. And I got in a lot of trouble and I was grounded and I was miserable because I just wasn't allowed to leave the house. And I was just as miserable as I was before. And so I didn't really change anything. I think the thing that did change was just like the circumstances of my life improved in general. Like I started going to a different school and like having more friends and like just being less on my own all the time, I think helped a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. At what age did you move to a different school?
I think I was 11 or 12. Yeah, so I was drinking especially pretty young, like 10.
It maybe is like a manifestation of all of the changing in housing and parenting. And when you think about that as an adult, what do you attribute that to? 'Cause that's a pretty little kid trying to escape.
I know. I think that for me, I was like just really trying to reconcile the fact that I felt so not okay, but I couldn't really put my finger on why. Because I think the thing that was ultimately happening is I was not getting my emotional needs met, which I think are really easy to underestimate how important those are when you're a kid. Because I was like, well, I'm not being like physically abused in my house. I just think I wasn't really aware of how unnormal the way I was being treated was. And so I was kind of like, this is what a troubled kid would do. And so I'm going to do these things because I feel troubled.
Yeah,
like sense. I think I was trying to fulfill some sort of role that had structure to it.
That makes sense. And also just like a method of self-soothing, like one of the only things you have control over.
Absolutely.
So you moved to that different school and you got more friends and were more social and things felt better. What happened after that?
Yeah, and things kind of were a lot better. I mean, I definitely did my fair share of kind of experimenting, and this is where I'll start getting vaguer as in the timeline of things as I become more of an adult in the story. But yeah, I definitely did experiment with a lot of things. I was, drinking a lot still, but it didn't feel like a problem, just because I didn't feel like I had to. Like, I ended up running around with a lot of oogly train kid crest punks as a teenager, and that really changed how I saw substance use, because I saw people who were really struggling with some really heavy stuff, and I was like, oh, this is what is too far for me. Like, I understand kind of like where this could go, so I kind of just like stuck by like really pretty strict rules for myself around substance use.
What were the rules?
I was like, never do meth, never do heroin, never do cocaine, because it's okay. This is not a belief I hold now, to be clear. But teenage me was like, never do cocaine because it's for snobby rich kids. It's immoral. I think partially because there's this AJJ song that is like has a line in it about how doing cocaine is a sin because of how immorally it's made. I don't know, something like this. It imprinted upon me. So I was like, okay, these are my rules. I will never do these things. And I will never have to do them. Like, if I ever feel like I have to do this, then that's a problem for me.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to like see people in super painful spots using whatever people call them, hard drugs, I guess, and just being like scared, honestly, because the repercussions of doing those kind of drugs are pretty serious. Yeah.
No, It really got really real really quickly, and I'm honestly, I feel really mixed about those experiences in retrospect, because like things started getting hard. A friend of mine passed away. His name was Drew, and he passed away because of, in his late 20s, and died because of his substance use. And that really hit me like a ton of bricks as like a 16-year-old, because I was like, oh shit, like this has really real consequences for people around me.
It's not to say that people don't die every day from using alcohol, but it's just like you don't drink 4 beers and then stop breathing typically, you know what I mean? And then when folks are like using white powders or heroin or IV drugs, fentanyl's just like in the drug supply. And yeah, people like your friend and a number of my friends and so many other people are just stop breathing and then you don't know them anymore. So it's super scary and it's really sad. I'm so sorry you lost your friend.
Thank you. My dog's about to start barking because someone has rung my doorbell. Okay, come on. It's all right, sir. It's all right. Thank you.
So you saw the train kids doing the hard drugs and then you created these rules for yourself. How did that play out ultimately?
Yeah. Well, and I'll clarify a little bit. My dog is still groaning. I'm sorry if you can hear him. I never actually saw anyone doing what quote unquote hard drugs. It was very much this thing that people were doing when I wasn't around for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know if it was because I was like always like one of the younger people in the group or like what that dynamic was, but it wasn't something I really became super familiar with. I just knew it was happening. And I knew that it was hurting the people around me. And this was before the fentanyl crisis really, came about. And which I just say because it was like, I was realizing that these things had like a really intense impact on people's health in a relatively short amount of time. Like I was like, if you drink a lot every day for a decade, like that will actually be bad for you. And I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to, and this is where I start feeling mixed about it. I was like, I don't want to sit by my friends and watch them die. That was really hard.
Yeah, I've had that exact same experience too, especially with folks that use IV heroin. I like had to orient my life so I could avoid the places where that was going to be what was going on, because it's a horrifying thought of coming up on your friend and having them be dead. You know what I mean? It's just like, for me in my life, that the amount of like worrying that created internally, it led to me being like, well, I can't hang out with my friends when they're in New Orleans, or I can't hang out with my friends when they're at this certain place or whatever. It's hard not to draw a line in between like stigmatizing folks for using a certain kind of drugs and then also having our own emotional boundaries when it comes to the dangers of that kind of stuff. So I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Oh, yes. And this is where I have goosebumps right now. This is where like I really start feeling very fired up about it, because I think the way that I reacted as literally a teenager made sense. I was like, I had friends who I was like, I'm not going to hang out with you unless you're sober. Like that's how I was about it. And I really regret that in retrospect, even though I think it made sense for like my level of knowledge and development at the time. But like it sucked because what happened, and this happened with a particular friend of mine, rest in peace, CJ, is like, what happened is that they died and then I didn't see them before they died because I was like, I'm not going to hang out with you unless you're sober. And that's shitty. That's shitty, honestly, right? Like
healthy boundaries, right? Like you put a fence around your life to protect yourself, and that makes sense to me. But nothing is just like completely black and white. Like creating a healthy boundary can still prevent you from being able to like love and spend time with and support people that you care about. So it's like, it's complicated and it's confusing. And yeah, I'm sorry you didn't get to see your friend before they died. That probably feels pretty shitty.
I mean, yeah, it is shitty, but like I've always been someone that says the thing I'm thinking. And so I'm like, there's nothing I didn't say, I'm glad I don't have that in my heart that I'm holding on to. But yeah, like it really, I feel like all of this set me up to be in this really interesting position as an adult, because I had so much experience loving people who use drugs when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, like that I really didn't have this idea that a lot of people get in their heads about like, I don't know, like around like drug use and like homelessness and like I used to just run around the city at night all the time and just like hang out with all sorts of people, and like the people that other people would describe as like the crackheads or whatever were like some of the nicest people I ever hung out with, and like really looked out for the like younger kids that were running around. I really feel so grateful that I had those experiences, because they set me up to be a much more understanding person as an adult. And that's really been such a beautiful thing in my life that I'm glad that I haven't had to work through, is like realizing that people are people.
Totally. That makes sense. There's like such an awful stigma in society about like people with addictions, people that use drugs, and yeah, people that are living on the street. It's just, it's not helpful for anyone to dehumanize people. And I'm glad that you never were internalized that awful thought that society teaches folks. When you had placed these rules around not hanging out with folks that were on drugs, were you still drinking at that time, or did you have like a period of sobriety then, or where were you at?
I don't think I was really ever sober. Like I was, right. Well, I was also the kind of person that was like, well, alcohol doesn't really count as long as you're like being responsible or whatever. And I was like, well, weed's not even really a drug. Right. Like, this is my thought process. This is my thought process. And I'm from the West Coast. And so I feel like this really kind of, there's a culture there back in times when things were like not legal, but were pretty normalized, East Coast versus West Coast.
Totally.
But yeah, so I don't think I was really ever sober, but I was like, you got to not do hard drugs. That was my thought process at the time.
How did that change as you got older?
Yeah, so it didn't really know anyone who I would describe as having like really serious issues with substance use until more recently.
Are you comfortable sharing what age you are now or no?
Yes, I'm in my late 20s. I'm 28.
Cool. I was just curious and asking about how your perspective on people that use substances changed as you got older. And you were describing having met someone that maybe changed your view on it.
Yeah, I always thought so fondly about my teenage years and like all of the experiences and wisdoms I gained there, and just savviness around things to understand how not to just freak out and be really like moralizing about substances. Like that really set me up really well to be a really great partner to a really special lady I really want to talk about. Yeah, so can I tell the story?
Yes, by all means.
Okay, amazing. So in 2023, I met this lovely lady named Zyla. She had just moved back to the city where I live. She grew up here and she moved away to try and get sober. And we met on Bumble and went out on a date, and she told me, "Oh yeah, I'm in recovery right now. It's really, struggling with these things." Like, and I was like, "Oh, I know about this to some extent. Like, I'm not going to be someone that's going to like judge you about that." I don't even know how to like even get into the story, but things really kind of took off from there.
Did it seem like she was used to people judging her when she came out with that information?
I think that she felt really ashamed about it, honestly.
Yeah.
Like she volunteered it, but just especially like going on to know her so well, like I really think that there was a lot of shame there for her.
So probably she was used to people judging her for having an addiction or being in recovery, because I'm guessing that's where the shame came from.
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, also just like really like judging herself. I think it was hard. I feel like I started this story like kind of inside out backwards. But yeah, so yeah, I met Zyla 2023. We dated for 6 beautiful months. She's an incredible lady. I'll talk a little bit more about kind of just like what she's all about. And she passed away in January of 2024 to an overdose.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, we're coming up on the year. The second year anniversary of it happening now, which is so wild. It's so wild. But I'm so glad that I get to talk about her. She was a crazy, amazing musician and like artist, and just like, one of those people, you ever meet someone and you're like, animals and children's like flock to you like you're a Disney princess.
Yes. That was her.
Like, how are you just like this? Yes, she was that person. She was like just great with kids, great with animals, and just like such a soft presence that really was so striking to me.
When she told you that information about her being in recovery and having had issues with substances previously, what went through your mind and how did that make you feel? Like, was there fear? Was there comfort? Like, what happened for you when she told you that?
Yeah, it was really interesting to me because I had to kind of check in with myself, because the last time I had really, checked in with my kind of boundaries around this type of thing was when I was a teenager. And I was like, I'm not going to hang out with people who use hard drugs,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I need to re-examine that. And she was sober when I met her. But yeah, I was like, oh, it crossed my mind. I was like, this is someone who is vulnerable in some particular way, you know, like this could come up again. I was like, yeah, that's okay. Like I'm older now and understand that things are complicated. And like, I don't know, I think there was a little bit of not fear, but just sitting with the like scariness. I think that comes up when someone you love is struggling with something so dangerous. But I just felt really like I would love to be a supportive person for you around this.
Yeah, my other question, besides if there was fear around it, is that a lot of times folks might have like that caregiving instinct. Did you have like, oh, I want to take care of this person? Did you have that sort of instinct or thought process when she told you that information?
No, not really. That's so funny you say that because that's so interesting to me. No, I didn't really have that experience. I was just like, dang, I was like, you're so badass. You're so cool. Like, I was like, you have obviously worked on yourself so much. Like, I was like, it's just really attractive to me that like you care so much about yourself. Like, that's so cool of you.
Oh yeah. How far was she into her recovery when y'all met?
She had been sober for 6 months.
Okay. So not brand new and not a super long time either, but 6 months.
No, yeah.
Nothing to sneeze at.
Nothing to sneeze at. She said so. Yeah, she had been sober because her DOC, her drug of choice was meth. So she had been sober off of that, I think, for 6 months, but she hadn't done any opiates for like a year when I met her. And so there was kind of these different levels of sobriety for her because, yeah, she had been doing hard drugs since she was 13. She died when she was 28. And so she had a really long history. Like it really was like how she developed herself and her identity was very tied up with drug use. And so I think like getting sober for her was really like an overhaul of like so much stuff for her and like finding who she was without it. Like I think that because yeah, it wasn't just one thing for her. It was like everything could turn into an issue just because it was part of how she coped. Right.
Yeah. I was curious too if either of y'all like drank or smoked weed or anything during the relationship, if that was an issue.
Oh no. So she didn't even drink coffee or smoke cigarettes. Because what she said is like, if I smoke cigarettes at the beginning of the week, I'll be smoking fentanyl by the end of the week. So because it's happened to me before, so I don't mess around with anything.
Slippery slope.
I know. So, I was like, okay, you know yourself.
Yes. Were you using anything during that time? Were you still drinking?
Yeah, so that's the thing. It was a interesting dynamic because I have really intense mental health issues, which are now pretty managed actually, which is lovely. But I was really struggling because I would sometimes be using substances to cope, like during crises. And I felt really guilty about that because I was like, am I triggering you? Like, am I being a bad influence? Like, it was an interesting dynamic that I was really nervous about at the time. I was nervous that it was going to cause issues. And I actually think it was a really lovely moment for us to kind of like just work out our own feelings about other people using substances kind of like in a safe environment. Like she was very like, oh, this actually isn't really that triggering for me. Like I actually really want to be able to like support you and where you're at. And I was like, oh, okay. It ended up being honestly like a really supportive dynamic.
That makes sense, especially having like unmanaged mental health issues to turn towards a substance. That makes perfect sense to me. Did y'all, at the outset of your relationship, was there any like talking about boundaries with each other with your use of substances? Was there a conversation of comfort levels of things like that?
Not that I can think of. I think like I remember us having conversations kind of at the top of our relationship of me being like, you know, I'm really struggling with, you know, like I have a lot of my own stuff, like my own shit going on. Like I know that you're on this path where you're trying to really take care of yourself. I'm worried I'm going to drag you like down with me kind of thing. And she was like, I can set my own boundaries and set my own limits and I can disengage if I need to. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, so it sounds like she had done a pretty significant amount of like internal work with herself to be able to recognize when she's outside of her window of tolerance with other people.
Yes, it was fantastic. I have never met anyone like that before. I was totally blown away. And I think a lot of that for her came from transitioning. Like, I really think that she like realized, oh shit, I'm a woman. And like, it totally transformed her ability to just be honest with herself and gentle with herself.
There's a lot of, internal digging and self-reflecting that us trans folk do in order to get to the point where we like understand ourselves. So it definitely like gives you a leg up on knowing thyself.
Yeah, like I really think so. Like I really think she had to do an inventory of like, who am I? What are the things that make up the way that I behave? And like, how do I want to change these things? And I think like transitioning into being a woman, like specifically a woman, and being like, I would like to be sober. Like I really am like, yeah, of course these went so hand in hand for her. Yeah, she's so incredible.
What went on as your relationship progressed? Like, how did things change? Because I mean, ultimately, sounds like there's a very tragic and dark ending to things and a very bright beginning.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to be honest, like things were great. Our relationship was great. It was lovely. She was fantastic. Like I watched her so many times cope really, really well. And like, I love how we treated each other around substance use. Like it was something that we just talked about. Like I'd be like, so how's recovery going? How's the addiction stuff happening? Like, how's that going? Mm-hmm. She'd be like, oh, yeah, like I've been having a lot of cravings recently. Or like, oh, I had this experience earlier that kind of like brought up some things for me. Like, it was just something that we could just talk about. And I really loved that because I am so glad that she didn't feel like she couldn't be open with me,
Yeah, definitely. It's like, it can be really scary stuff to talk about. It's very vulnerable. And there is a lot of stigmatizing of it. So it's really great that y'all were able to have those frank conversations about it.
Yes. And I will say like, and I would love to come back and talk about this one day when I have citizenship. But like I've had my own substance struggle since then. And so like I am speaking like having been on not both sides of it, but like, because I think every side of it is its own thing. But like I've also had my own experiences there. Like it is so hard to be in a position where you feel where you are like, there's something I want to do, but I'm not going to do it and not feel like, oh, I'm bad for wanting this thing. And I really wanted to make sure in our relationship that she didn't feel like she had to hide anything from me and that she never felt like her past with substances or her spot in recovery was something that she needed to be ashamed of or that wasn't allowed. Like I remember her telling me at some point, like, because I had something in the house for myself for emergency situations for if a crisis came up. And she was like, I am nervous that I'm going to take this and use it. And I was like, okay, that makes sense that you're nervous about that, but it's your decision whether or not you do this. Like it's your decision to be in recovery. And the reason why you don't use substances is not because it's wrong. It's because it doesn't work for you. You can do anything that you feel like is a good decision for you. And like I think that really was kind of a mind-blowing stance for her. She was like, yeah, you're right. Like this is a decision I'm making. Like this isn't like externally imposed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just the mere presence of a substance doesn't mean that we have to use it. There's a choice. I mean, I guess I could see both sides.
Wanting to use a substance, right? Like
yes, yeah. It's. I mean, it is always a choice, but when we have that addiction, like when we're in our addiction, it doesn't always feel like a choice.
Of course. Yeah.
At some times, like for different people at different points in recovery too, it's like it's good to like again know thyself and create whatever safe boundaries we need. At this point in my recovery can be around, like I work at a bar, you know what I mean? But some people, it's like in their home, they might need to not have any substances, or it might just be like a process of growth, like to have this one thing here and be like, no, every day I'm going to choose not, I know it's here and I'm going to choose not to use it because I'm at that point,
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, there's just like I was just like, there is no judgment for me. If you decide to do something, I will trust that it's the decision that like was you thought was best for you at the time. Like even if you decide later, like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. Like I'm not afraid that you're gonna do this. I think you make great decisions. I think you're gonna figure it out. Like it's gonna be okay. And yeah, it's a different place to be. Like recently, I had a partner who was like, yeah, I've been doing this recently, and I was like, okay, please don't bring that in my house though, because that's not going to work for me. It's different places to be, and they're all okay. But I just am so glad that I'm so glad that while I was with her, I was able to like just provide that kind of love around that, because I don't think that's something that she had really gotten before. And I think it's something that I come back to a lot when I'm thinking about, because obviously I'm very passionate about harm reduction and recovery, especially now. And I really believe in autonomy. I really think that people deserve to have their autonomy and to have their own agency without being moralized. And I feel really grateful to her that she gave me the opportunity to really develop that kind of ethos.
Absolutely. Do you want to talk about what led to her using again?
Yeah, we can talk about it. So she lives in a neighborhood where occasionally you walk around and you find a pipe on the ground that has residue in it.
Mm-hmm.
And this, like, she was having some seasonal depression stuff, and just like some things were just like rough. She went back home for the holidays. She was supposed to come meet my family. She wasn't let into the country because because she was like a unemployed trans woman of color. And so they didn't let her into the country, and like that was so hard.
Yeah.
And yeah. And then it also meant that she missed my birthday. Like it was just hard. It was just a little bit of a hard time. And she told me a couple weeks, maybe a month, maybe like a month before she died, she told me like, hey, so the other day I found a pipe on the ground and I picked it up and I put it in my pocket. And I walked with it in my pocket for a block, and then I put it in the trash. And I was like, oh God, okay, yeah. What was that like for you, you know? And I think, yeah, she was just like, yeah, I don't know. I just did it. And yeah, just kind of intense. And like, I'm thinking a lot about that experience. So like, I knew that this kind of thing happened in her neighborhood, but you know, I was never really worried about her using. It's not something I worried about because I just like trusted her so inherently to come back from wherever things went, you know? Because she had done it before. Like she'd been sober for then like a year. And I was like, yeah, like you like I didn't say this to her, but I was like, she might use again. She might even probably will use again at some point. Like mistakes will be made in life, that's for sure. I was like, I'm not worried about it. She's a rock star. Yeah. And then my best guess, I mean, I think this is basically for certain, but is that we had an argument, our first argument, on a Monday on the way back from a trip, and she was just tired, overwhelmed, out of it, seasonally depressed. And she was like, I just need like a day, like day or two of space, and we'll talk on Wednesday. And she texted me on Monday, say, good night, I love you. And then on Tuesday night, I texted her and told her I loved her. She was probably already passed away by then. She probably found a pipe on the street, brought it back, and used what was in it. I had it tested because the cops left it at her place, and it was fentanyl.
Oof.
Yeah. She just got really, really unlucky and made an impulsive decision.
Yeah. Damn. I'm so sorry that all happened. That's super rough and really
I'm sorry for
tragic.
the world that it happened. It is really tragic. She was so fucking cool. And she was like, I was just helping her prepare her resume to apply to work at a local harm reduction org. Like she was so passionate about helping other people. She really was like, and now I'll get a little emotional. She really was like really a kind, sweet, good person. Like one of those like really few people are all good, but like she somehow like came through her life of like, you know, growing up not feeling like she was good enough and doing drugs and like um, and like being homeless and all this shit happening to her. And she came through it being like the kind of person that cries at every single episode of everything, no matter how silly it is. Like,
Yeah.
she came through it being like the best dog parent, like the best dog mom ever. And like, I just have never met someone so kind and so sensitive. Like, she was such an amazing, amazing person. So I feel bad for myself, but I feel worse for just like the world at large, that the politicians don't prioritize people's health and safety over their weird foreign affairs and economics bullshits that create this toxic drug supply.
I hate the stigmatization too of people on drugs, unhoused people, trans folks, people of color, all of that stuff all intersecting for her, and like the oppression that she had to go through and the stigmatization that she had to go through. I hate that all of that shit exists. And if people would just fucking take the time to like humanize each other instead of tear each other apart, we would see that, like, I mean, everyone that I know that's ever been addicted to drugs or overdosed and died has been just like you're describing, the most gentle, sweet people that just had a really fucked up childhood and ended up with a maladaptive coping skill that,
yeah.
And then like fucking fentanyl showed up and then all of a sudden everyone's just fucking dying, you know? And
yes.
And they're not bad people for using drugs, you know what I mean? Or being unhoused. It's like they're our friends, they're our loved ones. They have so much to give to this world. And as a society and as community members, we need to offer out a helping hand when people are struggling, just like you did, instead of, you know, being like, well, that's a homeless meth head, I don't give a fuck. We need to offer out a hand of love to these people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really could not agree more. And like, I feel very, very passionate. I'm like, you know what? And I wrote a song about this because I'm also a musician, where I'm just like, for every like 100 politicians that they can't like hold a candle to like one drug user, like drug users should be in positions of political power. Like like I really am like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this. It's really heartbreaking because people are people and they have so much value. And it is, I think the thing that breaks my heart the most about it is how politicians just see these deaths as numbers, and people, especially who are living at the absolute margins, as disposable. And that breaks my heart because Silo was the most lovely, lovely person ever and would have done amazing things for this world.
Yeah, we have to do better as a society. We have to be able to show fucking up and help people, because these are people these were once children, you know, and these children had really fucked up lives, and we need to like see these people as human and come together to offer our help.
Yeah, and so I think that can look like a lot of different things, because, you know, saying that is like, yes, absolutely, but I also imagine that, like, if I say this to a random person on the street, they're going to be like, what do you want me to do about that? Like, what do I do about that? And I'm like, learn how to administer naloxone, please. Learn how to be a good neighbor, please. Like, just get used to interacting with people who are different than you and asking people if they're okay. Like, I feel like that's kind of been my biggest practice, I think, since her dying, is just like learning how to talk to strangers again. And just like, especially after being in like pandemic lockdowns, talking to strangers, talking to people who maybe make me uncomfortable in some way, just trying to get used to being a good community member.
Yeah, I think it's important to catch ourselves in those dehumanizing moments, because the stigmatization that society holds, like, it does live within all of us. We can't avoid that stuff sinking in. So catching ourselves in those moments of like, why am I uncomfortable around this person? Am I dehumanizing them? And how can I get past this discomfort and see this person as valuable and treat them as such?
Exactly. Yeah. And like, I try to see that practice wherever it comes up. Like, if I'm at the dog park, like, I was thinking this, I was at the dog park and there's these ladies that show up there and they drink wine in the dog park, which, like, shout out to them, good for them. However, they are noisy and racist.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it is a point of political praxis for me that I will never, ever call the cops on you for drinking in the dog park because I want to be a good neighbor, even though I am so sick and tired of you talking about immigrants this way.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Right? Like it's like there are opportunities to practice this everywhere, I think. So it comes up for me in all sorts of little ways.
Yeah. I'm really curious how, if you're interested in sharing your process of grief after all of that went down and how you've healed over the past couple of years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I think the thing that really got me through the guilt, because I felt guilty. Of course, I felt guilty because I was like, wow, we had an argument and then she died 2 days later. Oh my God.
That's so
And I'm
heavy.
like, and it is heavy. And she didn't tell anyone she was going to use. Like, you know, I have her phone. She didn't text anybody. She didn't tell anyone. She didn't talk to her roommates who had, like, she had Narcan in her bedroom, like, basically in reach of her bed where she died. Like, it was like, I think everyone in the situation felt really guilty about it because she really could have gotten help, but she just didn't tell anyone what was going on. And so that left me being like, oh my God, like, how could I have not known? You know, all these things went through my head. But what really quickly kind of settled in for me was coming back to my values around this and being like, no, I trust her. I trust her. I trust her autonomy. I respect her autonomy. She made the decision she felt like was best in that moment. And if I really, like, this is like my thought process for myself, but I was like, if I really love her and want to uphold my values of trusting her autonomy, I cannot blame myself for the decision that she made, right? Like, that was her decision. And people should get to make mistakes in recovery. That shouldn't be a lethal decision. And that's not her fault.
Yeah.
That's not my fault. Like, you should be free to make mistakes. And so that's what really helped me kind of survive that accepting it at all. Was just like, this was a decision that she gets to make, that she got to make, and it is my responsibility now to love her through that decision and not try and take that away from her because I wish I could have changed her mind about doing it, right?
Yeah. How long did it take you to work through everything to get to that point?
That was pretty immediate for me, honestly. That was pretty, like it took me like a couple days. It took me a couple days, but also I processed things really quickly. I had the support I needed in that time. So I think I'm kind of, I don't want to say lucky because I don't really think any part of me really feels lucky. I feel lucky that I knew her. But I did have kind of a uniquely non-traumatizing experience around that. So that kind of sunk in for me pretty quickly. I think the part of the grief that was harder for me to kind of sort out was just the fact that I was already dealing with so many of my own mental health problems. And I also specifically told her, hey, I really need you to take really good care of yourself and not die, because if you die, this will really mess me up specifically because of like my history. And she was like, I'm not going to die. Like, of course I'm going to take good care of myself. And I was like, you better. And then she died. And I was like, oh, okay. That's not okay with me.
We talked about this.
I was like, but I told you not to. Like, it turns out we have very little control in life over what other people do.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me a long time. It felt like a long time. It really hasn't been very long. It's been 2 years. It took me up until very recently to realize that I was not miserable because she was dead. I thought I was miserable because she was dead. And like, that was the thing that was keeping me back from being happy. But it turns out it was my own issues that had nothing to do with her. And that was the thing that honestly took the longest to get through as far as like this process of kind of grief looks like. Aside from that, like, I did a lot of crying on the street. I'm a big fan of crying on the street. I love being dramatic in public. I think it's fantastic, really cathartic for me. And dogs, like I have her dog and like he's the best thing in the universe. So I'm like, yeah, crying on the street, dogs, and music really kind of got me through.
It sounds like a good recipe for healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm curious, you said you were being educated for some sort of like mental health field. Would you talk a little bit about that and maybe how that has affected your view of this whole situation?
Yeah, so I say I study mental health, but really I study mental distress. I am in a background of MAD studies, so really looking at things from non-pathologizing perspectives, looking at, you know, critical theory, and uplifting the voices of people who have experienced psychiatric violence, honestly. And it's funny that you asked me this because me and Zyla had some like disagreements about addiction in the context of this, because I was like, well, addiction, like, because I was in the very, like, on the theory side of it, being like, well, we used to have, like, I can't remember what it's called, but, like, basically, like, the moral model of addiction, of being, like, addiction is a moral failing. And then we now have moved into, like, the brain disease model of addiction, of, like, looking at it like a discrete illness. And I was saying, because what my kind of perspective and background is really in being, like, things are social construct, things come from trauma, this type of thing. And so I remember we were coming back from getting dog food and talking about this, and I was like, yeah, like, I don't think it's like a disease. And she was like, no, I think it is a disease. And that was really interesting, because I think to her it was important that she was like, no, like, this is like I think like this is really, like, this is real, and it's not something that people have any control over, I think was her perspective.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's mutually exclusive with my academic understandings, but
yeah,
all about what people think for themselves anyway.
Yes, and all of that stuff everything's a gray area, and two things can be true at once, you know?
Oh, yes. Yes.
I'm curious if you're interested in sharing how all of this affected your view on substances and your personal situation with them, or if it hasn't changed anything, or what went on with that.
Yeah, I feel different ways about it sometimes. The thing that's coming up for me is me remembering, like, I don't think I was being super serious, but like, I found out that somebody just in my broader extended community is really sick with cancer, which is like, you know, their life is really, really in danger. And I had this thought of like, okay, yeah, like there's other people in my community who are interfacing with death in this way. I was like, should I like start seeking people out to date who are dying? Totally unhinged thought. But like, I was just like, I feel so much more comfortable with the idea of being around death and dying. Like, I was like, yeah, I've done this before. I could do that again. And everyone around me was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you're crazy. And I was like, yes, I am. Thank you. I'm nuts. It's true. But I think like, I just feel multiple ways about it, where I'm like, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I can be around people using substances sometimes. Like, it's because it just brings up so much for me, thinking about how dangerous things are, and how heartbreaking it is to me that such lovely, valuable people can take so many risks. Like, that's scary. But then there's also a part of me that's like, fuck it, like, people are making their own decisions, right? Like, I am unafraid to look into the void. Yeah, and I think for myself personally, I don't know. And I want to think more about this, and maybe I would come back and talk again more and more explicitly about some things. But yeah, I don't know. I think that I don't know what I think.
It's okay to not know what you think, and it's okay to have all of those different parts of you have different thoughts about the situation.
Yeah, I kind of swirl around about it.
I feel like that's really normal to have like a bunch of different parts of ourselves have a bunch of different thoughts about things, especially things that give us really big feelings, you know?
It's complicated. Yeah. But what I do really love is that I am like, yes. Like, I don't know. I saw someone on Lex the other day on the Queer Classifieds app that was like, does anyone know about any like recovery resources in this city? And I was like, babe, I got you. Here's where they are. Here's when they meet. Here's a link to Recovery Punks.
Hell yeah.
You can get in my DMs whenever you want if you want to talk about this. Because like, I just am like, yeah, like I really appreciate the kind of comfort it's or like the comfort that I have around talking about these things, because boy, oh boy, do we need to have conversations about them.
Absolutely. Is there anything that we didn't get to that you wanted to talk about?
I would love to talk a little bit about DULF. Have you on this podcast talked about DULF?
I don't think so.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
You don't know what I'm talking about? I get to tell you about DULF?
Maybe.
Oh
is it
my
an
God.
acronym?
Okay. Yes. Okay. Sorry. It is the Drug User Liberation Front. Is it ringing bells?
No. Tell me about it.
Oh my God. Okay. Drug User Liberation Front is an organization that was being run in Vancouver, BC, in the East Hastings area, which is known for having really intense poverty, homelessness, and opiate usage. And they were running something called a compassion club for members of the community that qualified for it, where they were purchasing and distributing tested substances that they knew were safe, relatively, right? That were not contaminated. And members of this club were able to purchase their drugs from this organization, Safe Supply. The founders were arrested and convicted of drug trafficking. And the ramifications of this case could have hugely positive or hugely negative consequences for what the response to the fentanyl crisis in Canada looks like going forward. So
it's all still in court right now.
Yeah. Yes. So they were just found guilty. However, it is kind of part of the bigger plan to take it to like basically appeal it to like what would basically be the equivalent of like the Supreme Court. Like they're looking at like the Canadian Charter of Rights and looking at it as like a rights infringement issue now. So it's still in the courts. If you're interested, they have an Instagram, the Drug User Liberation Front. They're doing a lot of fundraising to support their efforts. I saw one of the founders talk in person. She was the coolest lady ever. Like I was like, oh my God, I wish Zyla was here. She would be fangirling so hard. I would really recommend checking them out if you're interested in harm reduction and supporting really important harm reduction initiatives. So
very cool. Thanks for letting us know about that. Was there anything else that you wanted to get to?
No, I think that's fine.
Cool.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, there's two questions that I said I don't ask all the same questions, but there's two questions that I normally end with. One is, what do you think people don't understand about addiction?
I think that people really don't understand how chemical our world is and how like there really isn't any sort of objective structure for like what is a substance and what is a drug and like what is anything else, right? Like I think that people don't realize how just socially constructed our ideas about how moral addiction and drug use is, right? Like it's not moral. It's really very morally neutral.
Yes. Yeah.
It's really normal to put things in our bodies. It's what we do all the time.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to point out, and it totally makes sense. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, like certain drugs being stigmatized, and then like, for some reason, alcohol and weed not being stigmatized, or like crack is stigmatized way more than cocaine is. Yeah, it's just like we all made that up, society made that up.
Yeah, we made that up.
Yeah,
so we made that up.
If you could speak to someone in their darkest days of their addiction, what would you say to them?
I would say it's just about getting through this day. You don't have to think about forever, and that there is nothing that you can do that makes you unlovable.
Very good. Yeah. I think a lot of times that what we were talking about earlier too, that shame sinks in and we start to think terrible things about ourselves. But I agree with you that the person that uses drugs or the person with an addiction is always deserving of love and compassion. And
always.
Yeah. We're never beyond that point.
Never.
All right. Well, thanks for talking today. I'm super grateful for your time. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Early. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Recovery Demystified. If you like what you heard, share it with a friend or rate and review us so we can reach a larger audience. Recovery Demystified is produced and edited by me, Early Brunner. Stevie Petet made our logo. Our beautiful theme music is by Logan Bragg, and our social media manager is Kaylee Bausch. We are entirely supported by your generous donations as a 501c3 nonprofit. You can find a link to donate in the description. May you be happy and free, dear listener.